And
Hey everyone, so welcome to Let's Paint Live. If you've not joined us before, the first Thursday of every month, we take about an hour and we teach you how to paint different techniques, different projects. Today is very seasonal. Fall and Halloween is right around the corner. Usually we paint a canvas and we teach you a painting in about an hour, but today we're changing it up in honor of fall and Halloween, and we're painting on these foam pumpkins. So thank you for joining us. Again, it's the first Thursday every month, lots of fun techniques, and just really starting and finishing a project in just about an hour. So I want you guys to know that Harrison is in the studio. He will be on the chat. He'll respond to any questions. He'll link some products, what colors we're using. So get involved in the chat if you guys have any questions. All right, so the first thing I want to show you guys is what supplies we're using. We always use a very fabulous Let's Paint Live kit, which if you already have that, you always have every supply that you need for every class every month. If not, you should get the kit because it's fabulous. But it is folk art matte acrylics. You get all the brushes that you need and you get all of the colors that we need. So I'm going to go over the specific colors for today. We are going to be using wicker white. We're going to be using licorice. I always have black and white. We are going to be using cinnamon, coffee bean, lots of fall, beautiful fall colors, pure orange, daffodil yellow, a few more. We're going to base coat our pumpkin in navy blue, and then two greens that again are in the Let's Paint Live kit. We've got thicket and we've got classic green, and then a really beautiful fall floral color is folk art berry wine. So I always tell everyone when I'm teaching a class, those are the colors that we're going to use. If you don't want a navy blue pumpkin, you can keep him orange. You can paint him black. Just, be creative with whatever color palettes you use and make the project your own. But I am going to teach this exact project today. Also, if you don't have two greens, always know you can add a little white and you can blend a color if you don't want orange flowers. So you guys just really enjoy the techniques, but make it your own and be creative. So again, in the Let's Paint Live kit, all the brushes that you need. But if you're using just basic brushes at home, I always like to say a large flat brush for base coating, a medium flat brush. It could be an 8, a 12, a 10. All of those will work perfectly. A smaller flat brush, so this is a 4. If you have a medium, a large, and a small flat brush, and then any kind of script or liner brush, this is a number 1 liner, you'll be able to do all the techniques that we're learning today. Water for your brushes, always paper towels, a palette, whether it's palette paper or a foam or a glass plate, and then a hair dryer. Because again, we like to get your project completely done and ready to display in an hour, so we cheat with the heat gun or the hair dryer just to speed dry times. A little tip today that someone in the studio had is I'm painting a round object. There's a good chance with me involved it will roll around. So anything, a foam plate, this is just a paper mache lid, just something, a little trick to hold your pumpkin in place so you're not trying to hold it still while you're painting all the fun techniques. Okay, so with that, I think we'll get started. All right, so foam pumpkins, they come in every shape and size, taller, shorter, whatever you prefer. And I am simply going to base coat this with folk art navy blue. I'm going to leave the stem natural. You can paint it if you want and make it just all one solid color, but I'm going to leave it brown. You can see what beautiful coverage you get with the folk art. The navy over the orange. We'll only need one coat. what I'm actually going to do, and you can do exactly this technique or you don't have to, but I'm going to base coat just the top. You can see all of the bottom is still orange, and then I'm going to dry that with the heat gun, and then it'll just be easier to handle when we paint the bottom half blue. But we want the whole pumpkin this beautiful dark blue color. All right, so now I'm going to oh, I got one orange spot. You don't want any really thick areas. Like, make sure those little cracks of the pumpkin don't have a lot of paint sitting in it, just because it will just take longer to dry. And we just need a really nice even base coat. Acrylic paint dries fast anyway, but the heat gun just lets us do a little bit more of the fun stuff, the painting of the flowers and the ghosts. Okay, I'm going to dry that with the heat gun. All right, now the top is dry, and I'm just going to paint the bottom, get some more of the navy blue on my palette, and just finish off base coating our plastic pumpkin.
You need one of those dome-shaped hair dryers from the salon, you know? Get the whole pumpkin done in one go.
The best idea ever.
It's the right shape, too.
The perm dryer?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it.
I had enough time to think of that one while you were
Next
trying.
year, pumpkin painting, we're getting the dome.
That'd be flipping hilarious.
It would be beautiful, dark green, it would be pretty. Even that chocolate brown would be so pretty. Black, of course, would be so pretty. But I just love the navy. A little bit more. I think that is our whole pumpkin. Okay, and now I'm going to dry the bottom so it's easy to handle while we paint all the cute little design elements. All right, I think our orange pumpkin is now a beautiful navy blue pumpkin. All right, so now we are going to start. Let me just show you guys really quick one more time for reference what we're going to be painting tonight. If you want 2 ghosts, remember, add 2. If you want a little family of ghosts, you could do exactly the same techniques, but you could do a big ghost, a 2 little ghosts, whatever you guys want to do to make it your own. But the first thing we are going to do is paint the ghost. And then second, we're going to paint the placement of the flowers. We're not going to use a pattern. So just walking you guys through it real quick. First the ghost, then just the stems so that we know where we're going to place each flower. And then we'll do the cute fall bouquet, and then we'll add all the details. All right, so my handy dandy little lid. Again, you guys don't need that, but if you feel like it just makes it a little bit easier to have that propped on that. Oh, I love it. It's like an easel for pumpkins. It's pretty perfect. There's no front, there's no back. I'm kind of just looking for the spot that, you know, is a little bit smoother. That little detailed area is a little bit larger, but wherever you do your ghost is going to be just perfect. All right, so on your palette, you're going to need wicker white, a tiny bit of licorice, because we're just adding a tiny bit of shading and highlighting. So we're making kind of a soft gray. And then if you want to go ahead and put a little bit of thicket, which is your darker green, and then a little bit of your classic green. Those are the 4 colors we'll use first, just to start laying out our design. All right. So I'm going to use a medium flat brush. I'm going to use a number 12. Never, just a little tip, never have a lot of water in your bristles. One, it'll just kind of make it harder to work on the pumpkin, on the round surface, but also it'll thin down the paint, and you just want really full coverage, vivid colors. So no water. I'm just loading the wicker white, and I'm just going to, treat this as a pencil. I'm just going to sketch. A lot of people, because it's a brush, are intimidated, but just view it as, a pencil and just sketch the outline of your design. And then go right back and just start filling that in. I'm going to fan out the bottom a little bit, like he's standing in this little field of flowers. Each ghost is going to be a little bit different than the next, and that's perfect. See, I just fanned him out just a tiny bit on the bottom. And I'm just going to keep building the white until I get full coverage on that little guy. Keep his little head round, but don't worry about the edges. You want him really soft and flowy. I'm going to keep the bottom a little bit softer by just not getting the white completely covering, just because it makes it look like that fabric is kind of flowing. The top I want to be solid white, but maybe leave a little bit of that navy around the edges and towards the bottom. All right, so there's my little ghost. Fan out the bottom as much as you want, but the airy makes it look like it's flowing. You can kind of see through it. You get his little head a little straighter. And then all I'm going to do is, when you add black to white, remember the littlest bit of black will change that to gray so quick, so less is more. I'm just barely touching my brush into the edge of that black. I didn't add any water, and then just going into that white, but barely any black, because again, it'll go dark really quick. And then this is just, simple wrinkles or creases in the sheet. I'm just going to kind of go the flow of, the lines of the ghost. So kind of working around the edge. Pick up a little bit more black, but not too much. You can always add it, but you'll have to wash your brush and start over to take it out. and just doing little highlights. However many you add is perfect. If you want maybe 1 or 2 darker, just to kind of give some shading, but just accent your ghost just a little bit, enough to give him some texture. I might do 1 more on the top of his head. But again, if it stays a little white ghost, that's perfect as well. Okay, and now we're going to switch to the small flat brush. I'm going to use a number 2. If you're more comfortable with the script liner, you can also use that. That's a 1 liner. Still no water. If you washed your brush, that's totally fine. Just dry it on a paper towel. And I'm just going to go in the thicket. Whenever you're using a thin brush, you want to load it with paint, but then kind of roll it out of the paint. That'll give you a really detailed, there you go, a really detailed tip without a blob of paint on the end. So now, wherever you want to add flowers, if you want it to be super floral, you'll add more stems. If you just want to kind of accent around your little ghost, you know what, I'm going to add a little bit of white just so you guys can see it. I can see it here in the studio, but sometimes it's a little harder for you guys to see it when we're using these darker colors. But all we're doing, you guys, is stems. And be, like, never do your stems straight up and down like a fence. Always, you know, maybe crisscross them over each other, different heights. You definitely want it to look like this ghost is just in a field of fall wildflowers. I'm going to have a few coming out from behind him. Not too many in front, maybe just 1 or 2. But all you're doing now is creating the location that we'll go back and add leaves and flowers and all of the fun detail. Maybe that's enough for that side. Let's see, maybe I'll add 1 more, make him a little bit taller. I think I'm going to add a few more coming in front of him. He's playing hide and seek. But see how they crisscross? They're not straight up and down. You don't want to do stripes. You want it the way it would grow naturally. And just go right over all the details in your plastic pumpkin. I might do another one coming from behind him. Maybe a few short ones at the bottom. Can you guys see? Just placement. And you can always go back. We can always add more. But this is always a good place to start. I think it's much harder if you do, you do the stems, the leaves, the flowers, one at a time, because you don't really feel or build your composition. So if you just do all of the stems first, you kind of see the areas that you want to go in and add more. Okay, so those are my stems. And then I'm going to switch to that small flat brush. Again, this is a 2, but you could use a 2, you could use a 4. And I'm going to go in the classic green, which is the lighter green. And I am just going to, not on every one, but on maybe the dominant flowers, like this one's really tall, I am going to make a line to represent where I'm going to add some big leaves. So once you add the line, then I'm going to go down here. That's kind of an open spot. I know I'm going to add a big leaf there. And then I am going to, with just really small flat strokes, fill that in and create what represents maybe a sunflower or a zinnia, can never say that, a zinnia leaf. Still no water, I'm just going back and forth in the classic green and a little bit of the thicket. This is a fun, really easy painting, so our leaves are not realistic, they're not exactly They're just representing a fun fall flower garden. Maybe a big one right here. You don't want, two exactly the same on every single stem. Jump around and, fill them very randomly. But you're starting to get your composition built. Maybe I'm going to do a big one right there, but then not on the other side. And maybe I'll do one right there where those two are close. And then just some long flat strokes to fill in that area. If you get a lot of paint on your brush, just wipe it on your paper towel. No need to get into the water because we're not switching colors. And then on some of my other stems, I'm going to do little tiny leaves that go all the way down. So let's see. This will be a good spot to show you guys that. All I'm doing is starting on the chisel edge and pressing down. And I'm going to work my way all the way down that little stem. Pick up paint as you need it. They all don't have to be going in the exact same direction. You're just filling that area. I'm going to add a little bit of white again just so you guys can see it. I'm going to go all the way to the ground. I'm going to rotate and do the same thing over here. Maybe on, maybe I'll draw another stem. I'm going to add one right there. I'm going to do those little leaves, just starting on the chisel edge, squishing down and lifting back up. It's an easy way to make just a cute little vine pattern. There's the little crack in the pumpkin. Just go right over that. Kind of creates some fun texture. I'm going to scoot to maybe this one right here that's overlapping the front of the ghost. It dries really quick, so you shouldn't need, when you're doing stroke work like this, it dries almost immediately, or at least enough to where you can move it around. You don't have to use the heat gun. I only use the heat gun for the big base coat areas. But if you wanted to accelerate the dry time, you can always do that. Add a little bit of white. I love having more than one color on my brush. And you can do that by just going back and forth, a little bit in the thicket, then a little touch of the wicker white. You definitely don't need or want to clean your brush each time when you're in such similar values of color. Let's see. Maybe over here. Tiniest bit of wicker white, and I'll just add a few strokes over the leaf that we've already got base coated. For a medium, so we've got our big sunflower leaves, our little vines. I'm going to fill in using just the chisel edge. Just two little strokes and then color in the middle. And I'm just going to kind of do that randomly where I've got a spot that needs. So using the same number 2 flat brush, I'm just doing kind of like a C, and then filling in the middle. I'll show you guys right here. A little C, it looks kind of like an I, and then filling in the middle. touch in the white just every now and then because that just gives you a little highlight as you're using the different shades of green. Maybe right there. Don't cover up all the navy blue, but add as many leaves. That might be enough. I like the way the navy blue comes through, but you can see the different types of flowers. Takes a minute, but it all starts to come together. I'm going to add a leaf right there. A little bit of wicker white just to create a highlight. I'll rotate and do maybe 2 little leaves right there. I see so many ghosts already this season. I think ghosts are here for fall. I think they're here for Halloween, obviously. But the ghost, oh my gosh, they're so cute. I'm seeing them absolutely everywhere.
Big year for ghosts.
Right? What if we see a ghost at Christmas?
I would not be surprised.
I know, honestly.
At this point.
I wouldn't either. There's so many. I guess there is a Christmas ghost. The
Is
movie about the Christmas ghost.
Oh, right. I've heard of that.
So there we go. We have got a cute little fall garden starting to build up around our little goblin. All right, so now I am going to add all the beautiful fall colors to the palette. A little bit of the yellow, a little bit of the pure orange, and a little bit of the berry wine. And then maybe a little bit of the cinnamon. The coffee bean is for the center of our flowers. So we'll use that in a minute, but we can still add that to our palette. I always like to put just the tiniest bit on there because you really don't need a bunch. And you can always add more. Then you have lots of paint for all of our future Let's Paints that you're going to join us on. Okay, so now I'm using, again, the smaller flat brush. I'm most comfortable with that, so this is a number 6, but use whatever brush you're most comfortable with. I'm going to dip into that yellow. If you don't have wicker white on your palette, add a little, but I've still got some down there with my green. I just always love to just barely touch in the wicker white because it adds some highlights while you're painting. So just pick what color flower you want to start with. So I know I'm going to make him yellow. I'm literally going to just place a dot. I know I want yellow down here, so I'm going to place another dot. This is still building our composition. And maybe, let's see, tall, down low, I might add a yellow flower right there. I know I'm going to put a yellow one in front of the ghost, so I'm going to put it right there, kind of overlapping his little body. That one's yellow, so I don't want that one to be yellow, so maybe I jump down here. You guys, nothing about this can be wrong. You're just, by adding a dot first and not the flower, it's easy to correct or change. Because again, you don't want, yellow, 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 orange, orange, orange. You want it to be really natural. So just an easy way, I'm just going to dot the placement of each flower. Okay, I'm going to clean off that brush. You know what? Just to do it, let's do a little bit larger brush. This is a number 6, if you feel comfortable. If not, don't worry. It's just a different petal when we're painting our flower. I'm going to dip a little bit into that wicker white so you guys can see it better. But I'm just going to still just dot the areas so that I know I love my placement of color. Maybe this one will be orange, really snug next to the yellow. And maybe this guy will be orange. Now I'm going to, same brush, I cleaned it on the paper towel, but not in the water. I'm going to dip in that berry wine. And I'm going to do that one berry wine. The great thing about the folk arts is the colors never get muddy. They blend together beautifully, and when you don't clean your brush every time, you kind of get magic shading and highlighting without really even trying. I think I want that one, berry wine, on the ghost. Maybe that one right there. I love the burgundy with the navy, so I'm going to do a lot of the berry wine. Maybe one more right there. So we did the dots. The dots are going to turn into flowers, but just kind of look over it and say, oh, you love the placement, or you want more yellow. And now we'll start building each one into an actual flower. So I'm going to start with the berry wine flower. I'm going to touch a little bit of wicker white, just because I like the dark burgundy, but a little bit brighter against the dark background. I'm using a number 6 flat, and I'm just going to start, let's make sure you guys can see this. I'm going to start on the chisel edge, and then I'm just going to smash down and kind of pull forward towards the center of the flower. Smash down and pull forward. Your flowers are not out of a garden book. They're not exact. You're just layering petals. Just pressing down. You can see I had more wicker white there, less as I worked the way around. That's automatic shading and highlighting. I'm going to get a little more wicker white in this one, just because, again, I love the way it looks on the background. Sometimes the little details in the pumpkin, you got to fill that area with paint, just because otherwise your petal will look like it's not connected. But just, there's no wrong way to do that. Just go in that little texture of the pumpkin and fill that in. But I'm just starting to build the details on those flowers, starting with the berry wine, and let them overlap. If a flower goes over a leaf a little bit, that's how you would see it in nature. So don't correct that or start over. Just kind of let it all overflow, because that's how it would grow. Like, that's maybe too much wicker white, so not in the water, but I'm going to go on the paper towel. And then just go right over it, and you can see those colors stay really rich and creamy. I'm going to add a little white to this one, just because I like the highlight. Oh, I forgot the one right here on top of my little ghost. Oh, the pumpkin's got a big dent right there. That's all right. Do the stroke and then go in and fill in that little crack of the pumpkin. All right, so those are bigger. I am going to clean my brush in water now, because I'm going to go to a lighter color. I think I'm going to do the yellow next. And just make sure that you remove as much of the water as you can on a dry paper towel. All right, then I'm going to go into the yellow. You know what? For the yellow, I'm going to switch to my small flat brush. So this is a number 6. But same techniques as we did with the leaf. You're just going to pull long strokes into the center where you created the dot. And overlap. You can see I'm overlapping leaves, I'm overlapping stems. Just like a natural garden. I like the navy kind of showing through the yellow. It's kind of a neat effect. I think I got one more yellow over here. I'm going to, without cleaning my brush, go in the wicker white and lighten that yellow and just overlap with a little bit of wicker white and the yellow. to get some detail. Okay, I'm actually going to keep that yellow on my brush and go right into the orange. And I'm going to do the same thing, just pull strokes towards the center. Here's your little dot. I'm just going to pull, kind of letting that navy show through because that just gives you some texture, which is nice. Where do I have another orange? You know what? I don't have another orange, but I'm going to add another orange right there. You can always go right back in and add. I might add them right there. Just need a little bit of color right there. And just keep rotating and working on all the different flowers, giving them a little bit more detail with the petals. Rotate, dip in a little yellow in the orange. You can add a little berry wine into the orange, so you just get a nice blend of the palette that we chose. I'm going to get a little bit of the orange without the wicker white for my second layer of petals, just to bring that bright orange back in. You don't have to do it on all of them. Each little flower is different. I gotta kind of step back and look at that ghost sitting in this cute little meadow of flowers. Okay, I think I've got all the color that I want. So adding details or like the tiny little highlights to this is so easy. So what I'm going to do is clean off my liner brush, dry it on the paper towel, and I'm not going to outline, I'm not going to trace, I'm not going to do exactly the technique I'm teaching you to every element, but what is a really great way to add just that little bit of detail is liner brush, only wicker white, the tiniest bit of water to water down the paint just a little bit, but then don't allow the paint to be drippy on your brush. So a little bit of watered down wicker white, but then always touch on to your paper towel so it's not too much, not dripping, and not going to kind of run on this round surface. And then just some areas, like maybe I'll add a little line on these burgundy flowers. Maybe I'll outline the petal a little bit. You're being really, really loose. You're almost sketching. Again, view it as a pencil. Maybe a few veins in the center of your leaves that then connect it to your stem, but you're not doing every single one because you don't want it to look outlined or you don't want it to take away from all the vibrant colors, but maybe just a little bit of detail, not with the white right out of the bottle. You definitely want to thin it down just a little with water. But I love doing a stem in the center of the flowers, a few of the little highlights, but not on every one because we'll go back and also do this with green on our leaves. I hope you guys can see where it just kind of adds just enough detail to be fun and creative. I'm going to do a little bit on these orange flowers. You know where the center of the flower separates from the petals and you get those little lines? You could do that. I'm going to add some veins. Not on every leaf, but just on some. Same rule applies, less is more. You can always go in and add, but if you completely outline or add too much, it's hard to go back in there and cover that up. I think everyone's good at, just doodling or sketching, or at least more confident sometimes than if you're holding a paintbrush. So I always like to say, kind of compare it to that, because then maybe you're a little bit more confident and you're just open to adding details without overthinking the process. Okay, so I hope you guys can see that. It's just the most subtle little bit of detail. So same brush. Now I'm going to go into that classic green, the tiniest bit of water, just enough to make it move just a little bit more than it traditionally would directly out of the bottle. Twist your brush. Remember, load the paint and then kind of twist it out. That gives you a really good tip. And then I'm just going to connect everything. Like if any of these little leaves that we did are not connected, I'm going to add a little bit more water. You want it to be really smooth. You don't want it to grab at all. Add just the littlest water until you get that perfect consistency. Thinner than out of the bottle, but not too thin that it'll run down your round pumpkin. I'm going to make sure that, I think you guys can see it right there, maybe best because of the white ghost. I'm going to make sure that each leaf that we did earlier is connected to its stem. This is also creating some fun details. I'm going to connect him. All of these, some of them I connected with the white, but I'm going to go right over that and give it another element and connect it with the green. You know what I'm going to do, just because I like filling the bottom, I'm just going to brush up really loose with almost like a dry brush, just to get, that soft, airy green field. So after I go in and connect my leaves, I'm going to connect that one. I'm going to just brush up from the bottom, really just dry brushing or removing any of that extra green, creating that really soft, kind of like a meadow or a field. Add some water to green to do the other side. I'm going to connect all my leaves first. Connect him to him. Let me add a little bit of white to the water just so you guys can see it. But see, I'm just simply really soft, no pressure on the brush, connecting the leaves. I'm going to darken up that stem a little and just go right over the top. And then to clean off my brush, I'm just going to brush up from the bottom. Maybe I'll hold that up. Can you guys see where it's just the littlest bit of green is just kind of giving a base to the bottom of your flower field? A little bit more watered down. You're going to connect the stems. And then dry brush the bottom. All right, I think my little flowers are almost done. My little ghost is sitting in that cute little meadow. I am gonna clean the brush, small script liner, or a small flat brush. I'll go back to the number 6. I've got the, what do I have, cinnamon, and also I've got the coffee bean. And I'm just going to simply pounce. I've loaded both colors on my brush, and I'm just going to kind of pounce, not making a stroke, but just kind of sponging almost the center of definitely the yellow flowers. I want them to look like little sunflowers. And just alternate between the coffee bean and the cinnamon. You don't want a perfect circle, just a cute little texture. Oh, I'm going to rotate it this way, add it to that guy. I'm mainly going to do it on my yellow flowers, but then I think I'm going to get a little bit of that softer cinnamon and maybe do it a little bit on these berry wine just to give it a center. And add a little bit of detail. Why not, right? That's what's fun about painting. You can just keep adding and layering until you love it. All right, a little bit there, a little bit on my burgundy one. I am going to clean that brush off on a paper towel. And for the last step, I'm just barely going to touch in the wicker white and just a little bit on the centers, just to create that little highlight. Don't cover up the brown, but just the tiniest bit. And I'm just like sponging, like just pouncing down on the center of the different flowers. Oh, a little bit there. All right, I think that might be it. My little ghost is sitting in his little flower field. And now his little eyes. All you've got to do, let's see, I think I still have black on my palette. Let me straighten that up, do I? Yep. Let me get a little bit more. The tiniest bit of black. And I'm going to use the liner brush. And I'm going to just dot, like we dotted for placement on everything. I'm going to dot first. Because again, it'd be easy to cover that up. And then kind of look at the placement. I like it. The spacing is right. And then just color in the desired shape for the little eye. Whether you want him to have perfectly round little eyes or the long oval. You could give him a spooky mouth. I like the ghosts, which is the eyes. I feel like underneath that sheet they're still really, really nice. Sometimes the mouth makes them not look as nice. So I like a little nice ghost. He's definitely sweet under there. Oh, I'm going to make him a little bit bigger. Is that, I think that's right. Round it out a little. And there you go. So there's our cute little fall pumpkin. It's perfect for fall. You can carry it all the way through Halloween, and just a great surface that you can keep in redecorating year after year. So thank you guys for joining us. Again, I hope you get involved in the chat. Harrison will be answering any questions that you guys have. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy fall, and join us next month, the first Thursday of every month, while we teach you another fun painting. Bye, everyone.